Comments made on the following paid commercial program are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time.
Welcome to the Money and Wealth Show. On the program this week, tax tips with David Ingram, money commercials, and our special guest, Rick Rule.
It's all about money. At the HowStreet.com Money Expo in Kamloops and Kelowna, see Garth Turner, Michael Levy, Ross Clark, David Smith, and Doug Casey. To attend free, pre-register now at HOWEStreet.com or register at the door.
Welcome to the Money and Wealth Show. I'm Sterling Fox, and our special guest this week is the founder of Global Natural Resource Investments Limited. Rick Rule is with us. Hello, Rick.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. You are best known here in this corner of Canada in British Columbia as a guy with a keen eye on the mining sector, and yet you're better known in other parts of Canada for your skills and perception in other energy sectors. How's the mining sector doing these days?
Well, the mining sector is in the midst of a pretty extended bull market. I would suspect from an issuer's point of view, that is from the company's point of view, that these are very, very, very good times. Buoyant times for issuers mean challenging times for shareholders because the valuations are such that there's some danger built in the share prices.
Can you tell us the background story? We're jumping offshore here to Australia. Mm-hmm. The attack, as it was portrayed in the media, by the government of Australia on their mining industry that ultimately cost the Prime Minister his job. What was that all about?
Theft. What governments exist to do is redistribute wealth. Take it from people who have generated it to people who have managed the political process to steal it. Very similar to the theft that took place in Alberta 4 years ago. The paragon of free market principles that decided the natural gas producers were making too much money and decided that the government knew best and that they should take the privately generated wealth, steal it, and redistribute it. The process that took place in Alberta was the same as the process that took place in Australia. The difference is that the Alberta government was successful in stealing the money, where the Australian government has not yet succeeded. One of the hallmarks of a resource bull market is when extractive industries begin to generate substantial surplus capitals, government feel it's incumbent on them to steal the money. Governments, of course, don't steal in bear markets because there's nothing to steal.
Right.
The governments are, they're students of Willie Sutton. When they asked him why he robbed banks, they said, because that's where the money is.
There are those in Canada particularly, and I'm sure our cousins in Australia are very similar, who believe that the natural resources in the ground belong to the people, and that a mining company or an energy company is issued a temporary license to extract that particular resource with an appropriate share to the people for the permission to do so. How does that differ from your corporate viewpoint?
Well, I think that resources are latent wealth until they're developed by people. The resources that are there that are allegedly the commonwealth of the people remain the commonwealth until groups have the capital and the enterprise to extract them. Russia and China for many years were great storehouses of natural resources, which were never developed for anybody's benefit because they were managed by the collective. You know the book, The Tragedy of the Commons. The tragedy of the commons is when nobody owns something, nobody has stewardship of it, and nobody beneficiates it. You have an incentive to waste what you do not own. Common ownership, political ownership, is the most dangerous form of ownership on the planet because it precludes stewardship and demands rape.
Interesting. Now, apply that as it might be pictured in Canada. Can you give us, aside from the Alberta example from a few years ago under the Stelmach government, is there a current example, for example, here in British Columbia, that you could cite as an example of, or as a model of what you've just described to us?
The British Columbia government, relative to its history, has been very attractive. in the context of understanding that extractive industries generate wealth and that the province, particularly in terms of rural development, needs to continue to encourage extractive industries. Particularly given the decline in the forest products industry in British Columbia, both as a consequence of the decline in U.S. housing starts and as a consequence of the pine beetle, rural economies in BC are in much worse condition than the economy of the Lower Mainland.
True.
And as a consequence of that, your government has not seen fit to penalize the mining industry for having the temerity to make money, because these capital-intensive businesses generate jobs and high-paying jobs. I don't know what would happen if we had a period of $5 copper, whether the BC government's instinct would then be to steal. But BC has been very reticent. If you look further back in Canadian history, to the late 1970s, when the oil and gas prices did extremely well, you'll recall that there were excess profits taxes in Canada
Yes.
on oil and gas extraction. It's interesting that there aren't excess profits taxes on other industries that have traditionally been fairly profitable, like the pharmaceuticals industry, the motion picture industry. For some reason, those are glamorous industries, and in the case of motion pictures, they get subsidized in Canada. Whereas extractive industries that Canada's actually good at, that generate wealth, are targets for theft.
And with that sort of analysis in mind, and yet you're being complimentary to the government of British Columbia for not wanting to punish rural areas and faraway regions for, one thinks of the coal mines in northeastern BC as an example, required huge infrastructure investment on the part of the government, and they quite happily made it.
By instinct, I'm opposed to all government. I think the current government in BC is a relatively benign group. They seem to have some instinct in terms of leaving well enough alone. The idea behind their Green Power initiative, I'm reasonably attracted to. As I say, it's an uncomfortable position for me to say something kind about a government, any government. It goes against my basic instinct. But I am not as ill-disposed towards your government as I am towards any of the governments in my own country that I can remember in my lifetime.
Interesting. Well, we'll try and lower the discomfort factor here. We'll take a quick break. Our guest is Rick Rule, the founder of Global Resource Investments Limited, and we'll be right back here on the Money and Wealth Show.
Good afternoon. My name's Larry Ray. I'm the president and CEO of American Manganese, Inc. I'm here to tell you today that American Manganese could possibly bring in the lowest cost electrolytic manganese metal mine in North America. It'll be the first one in the past few decades. What is manganese? Well, you can't have a steel industry without manganese. If you don't have manganese, you don't have steel. If you don't have steel, the world stops. North America has no manganese. We depend on our neighbors and other countries to import our manganese, and it just doesn't make any sense we don't exploit the resources in our own country. So I'm here to tell you that we are moving ahead with the feasibility study, we're moving ahead with the environmental studies, and we're moving ahead with a massive drill program in order to build the American Manganese, Inc. into the first primary electrolytic manganese producer in the United States. Please visit our website at americanmanganeseinc.com or call us at 604-531-9639. Thank you.